point, please don't hesitate to ask questions. Even more than that, please do ask questions through the chat if you like, or just raise your hand, or just bring it out there. The discussion is super important to us. We're looking forward to it. And also, as mentioned, we're going to try to answer the questions that have been sent to us in advance. Rundown of the session is that we're going to have a presentation of, let's say, 20-30 minutes, depending on the discussion, of course, maybe longer. Afterwards, we're going to have a Q&A sessions. However, as mentioned, if there is questions before, we're happy to answer and to discuss. Afterwards, we're going to send you an email with a questionnaire, a very short one. I would be super happy if you could answer that as well, regarding our use cases that we're very much interested in how you assess them and their relevance. Last but not least, Skyrockets, Tobias and Tobias, stage is yours.
Very good. Let's switch to our screen. Can you see my screen?
Yep.
Okay. Digital building twin, that's quite a buzzword in the industry and yeah, actually already for some time. And most of the real estate companies and also PropTech providers are talking about digital twins. But when talking to customers and partners, it gets clear that most of the people have different ideas, different definitions, different associations when talking about digital twins. And that's why we as Building Minds also came up with our definition or our concept of a digital building twin. And that's what we are going to share within the next 20-30 minutes. But before getting into the details and before talking about the definition of our digital building twin, maybe let's also step back one step and then think about where does this concept of digital twins actually come from. And it's quite amazing that the concept is already 50 years old. So it all started, I think, in April 1970. Actually with the NASA, and at that time they sent the Apollo 13 spaceship to the moon. That was the idea, but there were some accidents in between. So on the way to the moon, one of the tanks exploded, and then the mission was less about sending 3 astronauts to the moon. It was actually more about getting them back to Earth. And to do that, the NASA had to figure out different options, how to do that. They had to do simulations, and then they came up with the idea to use their simulators that they had to train the astronauts and use these simulators to do simulations how to get the spaceship back to Earth. And that was obviously successful. They managed to get the spaceship and the 3 astronauts back to Earth. And from that point on, this concept of having, at this time, a physical twin evolved and became more and more digital. So over the time, the idea or the concept evolved from a physical twin to a digital twin. And the digital twins are actually used for decades now in the area of PLM, product lifecycle management. They are used from early phases in the product design, in the product definition, but also in the production of physical objects, and later also in the operation or in the maintenance phase. So Michael Greaves, a professor from the US, from Florida, he actually coined the term digital twin. And the idea was to have one physical object and then a digital or virtual representation, and also a connection between both. So data flowing from the physical to the digital twin. And nowadays, the digital twin is used in many different areas. So in the industry, in the energy industry, for example, windmills, turbines, they already have digital twins. They are equipped with sensor data, and the information is flowing from the physical object to the digital twin. Same applies also to connected autonomous cars. Same also in the healthcare industry, and in some areas also in the real estate industry. So we have this building information modeling concept, which is also actually quite old. The first idea started also in the 1970s, 1980s, but to be honest, it's not yet applied very often. So mostly it's applied during the planning or the construction phase of a building, but only a few customers have actually applied it during the operation phase of the building. But this is getting better, and we are getting approach from many customers that see value in having a digital representation of a building, and they are actually very interested in our digital building twin concept. And at that point, I would like to hand over to Tobias, and he will give us an overview of how we define the digital building twin. It's partially also based on these BIM concepts, but Tobias will explain in more detail.
Yeah, thank you, Tobias. Yeah, we at Building Minds also spend a lot of time and effort in the question, what do we understand as the digital building twin? And our digital building twin is concepts has 5 main elements. And so the first one is in the general building structure and the spaces. So how is the physical structure, the rooms, the floors, and everything about the building, walls, roofs. This is more the architectural view of a building, which is incorporated in our digital building twin to have this physical building in the digital virtual world. Besides this more physical architectural view, we also have a more commercial or business view on the building, which is represented by the different areas you can have in a building. These could be lease areas, for example, or and common areas, but also technical areas, cleaning areas, the different measurements you have for a building, depending on different standards you're applying for different purposes you want to use your digital building twin for. Furthermore, the third element are the equipment within a building. So this is also a very important part. These are, of course, elevators and HVAC systems, but also the smaller and very important safety-related equipment like fire extinguisher are also a part of our digital twin. So you have also smaller digital twins of all the equipment within a building to get a complete picture of the building and its parts we are having in there. These are all pretty static information, so more the building master data, the equipment master data, but this is not enough to really have a digital twin, and therefore we also incorporate sensors and sensor data to transform this static digital twin into a more dynamic digital twin and have near real-time information about the building status and its conditions. So these could be sensors for equipment, but also sensors like temperature sensor, occupancy sensors, utilization, and so on and so forth. So everything to really get a near real-time picture about the building. Last but not least, we also have the documents included into our digital twin. Why is that? Today, still a lot of information are stored in document, and you still have currently your actual building twin is stored in documents, either really in paper form, somewhere in a cabinet or in a folder structure on your laptop. But in the end, a lot of information are there, and we are convinced that we have to add these information also to the digital twin to really get the complete picture of the building, its condition, and the status of this. All right. let's look a little bit deeper in the different data and use cases we are using for our digital twin. So I already said the basis is more or less the building structure, yeah, where we have the building master data with information about the address, the type of building, the general construction sizes, rooms, floors, the areas of the buildings, and this can be used for different use cases. Yeah, so we are now able to create a kind of building passport or building logbook where you can really get the most important information, an overview, to really have one single source of truth of the information about the building, so that you have one place where you can store all this information, where you can have, let's say, one source which can be used for various different use cases and processes to get the data about your building and your whole portfolio. Besides these building master data, another important topic, of course, is then the visualization of these data. And Tobias mentioned this already. This could either happen in 2D or 3D. So if you, for example, have a BIM model in place, this could be a very important part of your digital building twin. And the good thing here is that the BIM can not only be used in your planning and construction phase, but you can leverage all this information that are already in this model into your operation and support different use cases like space management or stock planning, and can support the facility management, for example, with real detailed information about usage of spaces, about equipment positioning. So in our case, we are using so-called point of interest to really show what is the status of the building, what information are there, and you can then also create kind of snack lists where you can really then see, okay, where in the building is actually an equipment located, where in the building is currently a problem, an activity which needs to be performed, and this can really help the users of the digital building twin. The equipment, of course, are also, as I already said, very important. So we will have not only a digital building twin, but for every equipment within a building, we also need a small twin in the end, let's say. This is very useful so that you can really have a better obligation management. This means if you store all the equipment and the documentation, all the activity and the documentation of your equipment in the system, you will be able to have an improved asset efficiency by analyzing the data and even going in a further step to a predictive maintenance. This means you have more uptime of your equipment in the building, so your users, your tenants are more happy, and you can even maybe save some money when it comes to maintenance, and you are also ensure that all the obligations in terms of safety are met. Sorry, and that you can better manage these equipments also with sensor data that might be part of the equipment and have real-time information about it. Talking about sensor data, as I already said, the idea is that we can make this static digital twin, turn it into a dynamic digital building twin, which allows you to have space utilization more or less in real time. For equipments, you can have the status and conditions information also more or less in real times. And this includes, as I already said, different type of sensors. So not only for equipment, but presence sensors, comfort sensors, can be very important, because this can help you to better utilize your spaces, but also to increase the well-being of the people that are renting the building. And in times like these, with all COVID-19, this also can help you, for example, to track the social distancing in your offices, and support your employees to keep their health, to better manage these the requirements we are currently having with these topics at the moment, right? Last but not least, documents. I already said this, so we are looking at the documents in 3 different steps. So of course it's important that you're able to easily search and manage your documents. A second step would be to classify these documents, and then the really important thing is that you will be able to extract information from the documents. I already said that nowadays a lot of information are still stored there. If you're able then to extract these information from the documents and enrich the digital twin with these information, then you really have actually the digital twin created and keep it up to date. So your building and equipment documentation will always be up to date, and you're able to create a kind of, we call it, full life cycle data room, which enables you then, for example, to have easier transactions, and to be always up to date about the condition and the status of your building. All these might be a little bit overwhelming, and you might think, oh my God, my building is not yet ready for this. But in the end, this is not a big issue, because our digital building twin, or our definition of digital building twin, doesn't mean that you need to have all this data right from a beginning. You could really start with very small information, maybe just some location or address information, or on the other hand, already have a BIM model, a full-fledged BIM, which then gives you all the information. The truth is probably somewhere in the middle, and our goal is to really build up the digital twin over time to get more data in the digital twin by using it every day in the daily business, and then enriching it with further information. Another benefit of the digital twin I would like to mention is the data democratization. You might know this from your everyday life. There are a lot of different parties working with the digital or with information from the building. So you have portfolio managers, the owner, of course, asset managers, facility managers, also insurance companies, and so on and so forth. And all of them have their little silo of data. All of them have their little master data at the moment. Data is exchanged bidirectional between the different parties. But with a digital twin, you would be able to have one, I already mentioned this, single source of truth in the middle, where everyone can really consume the data from, and also keep the digital twin up to date in providing the data they are creating about the building every day. Of course, everyone only has access to the data they need and they should have, but in the end, at least as owner or portfolio or asset manager, you would have the complete view and get the information from everyone who is somehow participating in the digital building twin, or with the physical building, actually. This is our definition of a digital building twin, but we are also convinced that this is not enough, and what else is needed, Tobias will explain to you.
Correct. And as you said, the digital building twin with its building structure, the equipment structure, documents, sensors, is actually the nucleus of what we are trying to build. And this nucleus we would like to augment and enrich with additional data. So A lot of information is already produced and processed in other systems, in ERP systems, in computer-aided facility management systems, maybe in the building itself, in the building management system, or during the planning and construction phase, also in a BIM platform. And our goal is to use this data and use it to enrich our nucleus, the digital building twin, and this way create a 360-degree view on a building. So we would like to add financial information coming from an ERP system, tenant information coming from a property management system, energy consumption data either from a utility company or from a BMS system, and this way create one holistic view on the entire building. And this way we are able to provide different perspectives on a building. For example, a financial view, which might be interesting for the owner, for the portfolio manager, for the asset manager, an efficiency and effectivity view, which might be relevant for the property manager or the facility manager, or very prominent at the moment, a sustainability view on the building, covering both the operational carbon footprint and based also on our digital twin information, the embodied carbon footprint of a building. But this is just the second evolution or the second step. The real value actually is produced when these digital building twins are connected.
Yes, that's correct. And yeah, as this slide already said, so the great asset lies in the connection of the different digital building twins you're having in one portfolio. And I would like to just discuss this with one example, which is not coming from the real estate industry. But if you think about a map, we all know this. You might remember when I also started to drive, I also needed a co-driver to look at the map and tell me where to go right and left. And then one day someone had the idea to digitize this map, which was already pretty helpful and very nice to have one digital map. But in the end, this didn't really bring the actual value. The actual value started when on Google Maps, for example, Google started to take the information from all the different participants in the traffic and also enrich this information with further information like public transport, so that you were able to see where is currently high traffic and which is maybe a better route to take to reach your goal and not just follow a paper plan. And this connection and these information actually enabled new business models, yeah, which were not possible before. So when you think about Uber as the very prominent example, the whole business model of Uber is built on Google Maps, because otherwise it would not be possible to map the drivers and the passengers, and maybe then also help the drivers to find the right direction. But this really enabled people to create a new business model on existing data by combining these data into one platform and providing one platform with all these information. And the same is what we need to do with the digital twin. So it's not enough to just have one digital building twin, but to bring together all the different building twins in one portfolio into one platform, so that you can more or less already talk about a portfolio twin, which enables you then to do analysis on your complete portfolio, benchmarkings internally and maybe even externally if you have external data available. And this is then in the end the data foundation, which enables you to create smart algorithms and to really analyze your portfolio and get insights you do not yet have with your portfolio and with the building the buildings within the portfolio. And this is then really also enabling you to build new business models and provide new services maybe to your customers, clients, and so on. And how we want to enrich this, again, Tobias. Oh, sorry, I was not. Tobias coming soon. Just as a summary, how is now the digital building twin driving the business value? So we have seen the digital building twin itself can already provide some value, similar to a digital map. So it can help you in your business. But if you really enrich these digital building twin with other related information from other systems, finance information, tenant information, and so on, you already get a much more benefit from this. But the actual real value is created when you connect all these digital building twins into one platform and then are able to analyze the data and to bring everything together and get the insights, and you will be able to also offer new services, create new business models. And now, Tobias.
Thank you. And that's actually about what our customers are asking for. So they already have idea what new services they could provide to their customers, to their tenants. They are already doing innovation workshops for years, but what they are lacking is actually a data foundation or a data platform where they can build new services on top, new business models on top, where they can provide all the relevant information to their stakeholders within the value chain, from the owner to the portfolio manager to the asset manager, to the property and the facility managers. And that's what we would like to do with our Building Minds data platform. What we haven't shared so far, how we would like to do that. So Tobias described how we would like to set up the digital building twin, but we haven't shared so far how we would like to enrich this digital twin with additional data sources. And we use a concept called the common data model, and that's a concept that was invented by Microsoft, our technology partner. They started an open data initiative in 2018 together with SAP and Adobe to standardize data structures in the area of customer relationship management, CRM. And inspired by this open data initiative and by this common data model, we are planning to define a common data model for the real estate industry. So we would like to provide a data standard for the industry covering the entire life cycle, from early investment management to the operation phase later in the process. And we don't want to invent the wheel from scratch. On the one hand side, we can use existing definitions from Microsoft that they already applied in other industries. So for example, in the manufacturing industry or in the healthcare industry. So a financial transaction is the same, independent from the industry, or a procurement order is also the same. So we can use it for our purposes. And we just focus on real estate related entities. And there we would also like to rely on existing standards. So our data model is based on BIM standards, on the IFC standard. We use the same entities and attributes. And we also have one question in the chat regarding measurement standards. We also apply the IPMS standard to standardize also the measurements on a global base. But most of our customers use local standards. They use, for example, in Germany, DIN 277 to measure space, or GIF. So we have to provide both the possibility to measure a building, for example, in a national standard, but also try to convert it into a global standard, which is not easy because there are 80 standards for measurements globally available. And we will also not have 100% solution for it. So what we would like to provide is actually one common understanding across the industry, and it will more probably be the 80% version and not the 100% version. But by harmonizing, by standardizing the data structures, we are able to, like Tobias described, democratize the data, but, and that's our goal, translate expert knowledge into smart algorithms. So our platform should become proactive. It should give recommendations to portfolio managers, to asset managers, how to better manage a portfolio of buildings, or it will give recommendations to property managers, to facility managers, how to save energy, how to save costs related to a specific building. And to come up with such a global standard for the real estate industry, we joined forces with different partners. On the one hand side, we are working closely with our technology partner, Microsoft. We are supported by a Swiss consulting company, POM+, but we also joined forces with RICS, a global real estate organization with more than 130,000 members. And RICS is currently working on a standard called IBOS, and that's the working title, International Building Operation Standard. And the goal of this IBOS standard is to evaluate the performance, the quality of existing buildings. It's more or less a KPI framework. And with our common data model, we would like to support this KPI framework with the underlying necessary data structures. And we joined forces in a joint initiative called IBPDI, International Building Performance and Data Initiative. We launched this initiative 2 months ago, and it was very well received. So we have a lot of real estate companies, but also facility management service providers or other local real estate organizations that are interested to participate. And it's important to say that both the IBOS standard, but also the common data model will be open standards. They will be published and they will be available in GitHub, for example, so everybody is able to download the relevant standards as soon as they are published. And that's quite overwhelming to develop such an industry-specific common data model. But like I described, on the one hand side, we can already reuse existing definitions either from Microsoft, from other industries, or on the other hand side, also other existing standards that we would like to establish in the market. And on the other hand side, we are also equipped with the necessary tools. So Microsoft is heavily working on this common data model concept in other industries. They are developing tools to define this common data model. They are also developing applications that are able to access this common data model. So we feel that we are very well equipped. And we also have this strong team of Microsoft, RICS, POM+, but also our founder Schindler is contributing to create this standard. It will take some time, so this common data model will evolve over time. We will not publish it in one step. We will start with the digital building twin, but then we'll publish one data cluster after the other. Starting with sustainability, going over to portfolio and asset management. So it will be a growing standard over time. But we need help, and that's why we are looking for more participants. So this is an invitation to you on the phone. If you're interested, please also support our initiative. You can contribute in different ways, either by working hands-on the data standards or also on the KPI standards. You can also be a supporting partner and this way try to establish this standard in the market. Yes, that's basically is what we wanted to share about the digital building twin. Tobias already showed you a few screenshots of our platform. If you are interested to get a deep dive and more detailed demo, please reach out to us. We will send out an email after the webinar. Yeah, and now I think we can say thank you for joining the webinar, and we would be open for questions. And Katharina already is raising her hand.
I've collected a few. First of all, thanks a lot. It's always interesting to listen to all of the amazing projects we have, beginning with the common data model for real estate, which is obviously one part and a huge foundational effort that you're going to have and achieve. And then on the other hand, there's a platform with a digital building twin. And I'd like to start with that part. Actually, we have a question from Rosella. Thank you very much for it. Actually, how does the entire project start, in a sense? How to implement the digitalization process of an existing building, I would even say of an entire portfolio that has to start from scratch. So let's say I'm the client and I say, that's a great idea. How do I start with it? How does that work?
Yeah, and that's one problem that we have in the industry, because every building is unique, and our customers have buildings in their portfolio that are 100 years old. They have buildings in the portfolio that are 50 years old, and they have new smart buildings. So we will have very different situations and also very different level of information that are already available. And this is something, and Tobias also showed it in the slide, that we are handling with our platform. So we are able to start with a very small representation of a building with a very small digital building twin, which will evolve and grow over time. And we are also providing services to our customers to digitize the existing portfolio. We call it Make Physical Digital. One example is that we do have a mobile app to create an inventory of technical assets within the platform. So something that you can use to walk around within the building, take pictures of the heating system, ventilation system, and this way build up the digital twin. We are working with partners to also digitize the visualization of the building, to create 2D, 3D visualizations of a building using LiDAR scanners or point clouds, for example. So there are different ways how to start building up a digital twin. What we do with most of our customers, we migrate their portfolio to our platform, meaning we go broad and cover the portfolio, but then for specific buildings we also go deep and create a very detailed representation of a building.
In a EU Commission paper, it says that in 2050, if we look at that actually time, 80% of the buildings existing then are already existing now. That means that actually, as you mentioned, like these old buildings that we have in our portfolios, they would have to be retrofitted. And would you then say, is it easier to retrofit to a certain extent and make them smarter, or to just build new smart buildings, which is obviously the massively smaller share in the future?
That's why we are focusing on existing buildings. So we are also able to handle new smart buildings, but actually our goal is to help customers to digitize their existing portfolio. And also from a sustainability perspective, it's actually more sustainable to modernize existing buildings instead of constructing new buildings. And that's why this is also our focus.
There's also a question regarding real-time data / obviously IoT, huge topic. Which kind of real-time data do we gather and for what purpose? Potentially even adding to the question, necessary to have these new smart buildings or the retrofitted ones, or both?
I think we have many different use cases, and maybe Tobias, you can later add. On the one hand side, it's important to get alerts in real time or near real time to inform the facility manager and sometimes also the asset manager if there are problems within the building. But like we have seen, we have also use cases like space utilization, well-being, and also the COVID-19 social distancing. And there it's important to also see how our space is utilized. Are too many people in a specific area, and then give an alert or inform the people that they should keep the distance. But it's also different from region to region. So we are currently also starting a project in China and in Shanghai, and there the requirements are more into the direction of having real-time information to see the elevator going up and down in real time. And this is the expectation in this region. And this requirement is not that strong in Europe so far, but we are also getting more and more requests that are going into this direction.
Mm-hmm. Since you've mentioned social distancing, do you observe a growing importance of ESG targets or the implementation of it, which has obviously been a topic for quite a while now? However, do you see like an acceleration through this current situation?
Happily, yes. So I worked on this topic already 10 years ago, and now it's picking up since, I don't know, for the last 2 or 3 years, and it's getting stronger from month to month. And actually a lot of our co-innovation projects are also driven by the sustainability or ESG topics. And from my perspective, it's also getting stronger based on the COVID-19 situation, because I don't know, COVID-19 is compared with our climate a small crisis. If we are not able to act regarding our climate change, I think the crisis will be much bigger than the current COVID crisis.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's obviously, I mean, there's been around a lot of prop techs, bigger, smaller companies, like the marketplace is huge. There is also a question about the competitors in the marketplace. And I would like to add what is even our marketplace that we're in, since you were mentioning a lot of partners, a lot of potential data points, a lot of systems. There is so many things to be considered. So what is the marketplace after all?
Yeah, as I said in the beginning, we are developing a data platform. It's less transactional. It's more focused on data and data-driven insights, and providing a platform to apply new technologies, to also be a platform for other partner applications or PropTech applications. So it's difficult to say who's our competitors. There are more and more companies moving into the same direction, and they come from different areas, either from the area of building technologies or coming from the area of ERP systems. And there are also some startups that have a similar vision like we have. Mm-hmm. And actually a lot of real estate companies and also corporate real estate customers, they work on a similar vision like we do, but they just do it on their own. And what we would like to do is actually to accelerate that and make that groundwork available to everybody, and then focus really on new use cases, new insights, and new business models that can be applied on top of this data platform.
You've mentioned a lot of, let's say, holistic functionalities of the entire platform, the common data model, the digital building twins, or even a digital portfolio twin, so to speak. However, are there certain modules that would be available or certain use cases? Because at least I imagine that like to change everything at once is barely impossible. It's nearly impossible. Like what kind of modules, what kind of use cases do you plan for? And how would the implementation process work?
Mm-hmm. So that's what we are currently working on, a product modularization, and that's not set in stone yet, but we already received the feedback from customers that they are only interested in certain functionalities or certain use cases, and that's why we are going to provide a core of our platform and then we will have different accelerators that customers can put on top, either in the area of IoT or smart building, or in the area of machine learning and AI, or in the area of digitizing the existing portfolio. So it will be quite modular, so that we can apply, or customers can somehow pick and choose and get the services that they need.
I'd be super interested in asking the audience now if you already have use cases in mind that you think are most relevant. Is it, for example, sustainability? Would it be IoT use cases? Is it more lease management, insurance management, you name it? So there's quite a lot of stuff that's out there, obviously. Are there any opinions already on which use case is of utmost relevance for your companies, or that you observe is important in the entire market? So if anyone's keen to speak, happy to hear the opinion. Otherwise, we have our survey afterwards, and very interested to learn about your thinking. So anyone having a comment or idea? Not so far, I guess. Okay. However, please be so kind and answer our survey.
Katharina, I don't know whether you received the chat box, but
there is a chat box, yeah.
IoT and sustainability I put at the top of the list.
Okay.
For this fantastic product.
Hi, thanks a lot, by the way, for your questions. Very much appreciated. So why is it IoT and sustainability, in your opinion?
Well, I think sustainability is the future. It will hit us like a bus, and the industry is lagging behind, and it will be a certain shock. And I think the quicker we can understand the carbon footprint and the management thereof, the easier it will be for the fund managers in the future to preempt what will be a growing trend. It will move through sectors. The fund management concern, it's as more and more younger people become active, I think you will see a greater and greater trend toward the property sector in this area. And so I think the fund managers will be obliged to sell their management of sustainability to their investors. Just like the oil industry is obliged to do it today, I think the construction industry and property industry will be obliged to do it because of the carbon footprint. This is my humble opinion. You may, as experts, know better than me. And I think IoT, again, is probably a bit... is already being seen as a key element in smart cities. And I think, although there are not so many smart cities, those who are building smart cities are finding it a challenge to get a holistic view of their smart city and bring everything together. Although they have a number of outstanding technologies, they're having a challenge to bring everything together.
I find it interesting that actually us as well, we're kind of seeing IoT sustainability on the same level, which maybe is true because it's both utterly important. However, sustainability really is a target. We want to decarbonize. However, IoT is more or less a tool or a trend, maybe even. And that's something that where actually I see it on different levels a little bit. And one is, of course, supporting the other. And that's why it's actually linked in the end. Otherwise, how do we understand the physics of our buildings if we're not implementing IoT? And that's
one problem currently in regards to sustainability, that most of the customers are having problems to collect the relevant data to calculate the operational carbon footprint, to calculate the carbon risk within their portfolio. And having at least the energy consumption data as part of an IoT scenario would be one way to automate this process and to also help customers to get a better understanding of their operational carbon footprint and of their carbon risk in the portfolio. So like you said, it's supporting each other.
Any other opinions on our use cases and their importance? Because there are other important and interesting questions. Carsten, for example, he asks, do you have ROI examples so retrofit of a building is monetary beneficial? So having said sustainability, I guess it's in this context particularly.
Not yet our own calculations, because we are quite young, and most of these modernization projects are have just started, but that's something that we are currently looking into. But we are also doing research on ROI figures coming from other studies. But I think it's too early for us to come up with our own ROI figures.
What I understood, Tobias, from our last conversation is also that obviously retrofit to a certain degree is inevitable. The question is, how can I ensure with data and data analytics that I figure out, let's say, the black sheeps in my portfolio or even the green sheeps, to understand to what degree I have to retrofit and to avoid that I have to retrofit too much, so to speak, when it comes to profitability and financial aspects. And that's what we have to find out and make sure by using data-driven analytics. That's how I understood.
No, 100% correct, and that's what we are currently working on to on the one hand side have the sustainability data model as part of our common data model, but also have the relevant building information as part of our digital twin to actually figure out what measures are necessary and what retrofits are also necessary to be more sustainable.
Would you say that Building Minds, our company, is good or better for any particular real estate asset class, David asks?
So actually we have a very broad scope and we want to cover all asset classes over time, and we have customers that have assets from all asset classes in their portfolio. So commercial, corporate real estate is part of our vision. We are not that granular at the moment in regards to residential real estate, but we already also have co-innovation customers that have a strong focus on residential real estate.
Mm-hmm. There's another one that is David again. How do you get around data protection rules in developing the logarithmic model? I like the expression "to getting around data protection," which I think we should actually more or less consider data protection as a core ingredient. But it's a cool question. So Tobias, how do we get around it?
I think there's no option to get around it. So we do have our data protection officer within Building Minds, and we have to make sure that we comply to the data protection regulations. And I think there's no way around.
Yeah. Well, I think we've covered quite a lot of questions. I'm just having a look if I missed something. Anyone in the audience having more questions, type it in the chat or just raise your hands, ask them frankly. Happy to discuss and answer. If not, I think that must be pretty much it. Tobias, anything else to add?
No, thanks a lot for joining. Very interesting questions. And thanks a lot. Have a great day. Have a very great day. Start into the week. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks as well from my side. Was a very interesting discussion. Stay tuned and join us for the next webinar in just a few weeks, most likely around the common data model a little bit more in detail.
And if you're interested, please contact us, and then we can have also a deep dive session or a demo on our platform.
Exactly.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Ciao.
Bye.
Thank you.